We have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, and flat out deceived.
There's something kind of about a kid that's never played baseball.
Make sure to listen to the Armchair Quarterbacks. Good enough for us down here in the bayou. Go Tigers and the Armchair Quarterbacks.
It's morning.
Yes, and what a lovely morning. Good morning.
Good morning. We've talked the whole night through.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Me and Barrett are about to tap each other out. Ain't that right, Barrett?
That's right.
Yeah, somebody requested chain wrestling.
Armchair.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're listening to the Armchair Quarterbacks on CBS Sports Radio, #1 sports station.
Good morning, and this is your Armchair Quarterbacks Sports Flash. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department executed a search warrant to get data from the so-called black box in the SUV that Tiger Woods was driving when he seriously injured himself in a car crash last week. Quote, "We're trying to determine if a crime was committed. If somebody is involved in a traffic collision, we've got to reconstruct the traffic collision if there is any reckless driving, if somebody was on the cell phone or something like that. We determine if there was a crime. If there was no crime, we close out the case and it's a regular traffic collision." The Sheriff's Department also said there was no probable cause for a warrant to obtain Woods' blood, which would help determine whether he was under the influence of medication. Tiger Woods, 45 years old, is recovering at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles. Former NFL player Kellen Winslow Jr. was sentenced Wednesday to 14 years in prison for multiple rapes and other sexual offenses against 5 women in Southern California, including one who was homeless when he attacked her in 2018. The 37-year-old son of Chargers Hall of Famer Kellen Winslow Sr. appeared via video conference at the hearing in San Diego. Winslow declined to comment before his sentence, saying his lawyers had advised him not to speak. Kellen Winslow was drafted by the Cleveland Browns in 2004 out of the Miami Hurricanes and spent 4 seasons with the team, being named to the Pro Bowl in 2007. He also played for the Buccaneers, New England Patriots, and New York Jets. Major League Baseball games today that will be televised on MLB.tv as well as elsewhere. The Rays and Twins are on the Sun Network. They're also available on Fox Sports North. Braves and Pirates are on ATTP TV. Yankees and Phillies on NBC Sports Philadelphia. All those games are at 1:05 Eastern. At 1:10, the Nationals and Mets are on ESPN. And at 3:10, Angels, D-backs are on both of their affiliates, as well as Brewers and Indians are also on both of their affiliates. Cubs and Dodgers tonight on Sportsnet Los Angeles. And that's your Armchair Quarterback Sports Flash. Stay tuned for more of the Armchair Quarterbacks radio show and YouTube Live. Please like, subscribe, and share our show today. The Armchair Quarterbacks, your first choice for sports talk live from the First Coast. Good morning. It's time to wake up, y'all. You're listening to the Armchair Quarterback Show. We're here weekdays on CBS Radio, YouTube Live, 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 Central, 5 Pacific. The Armchair Quarterback Show, your first choice for Southern sports talk. Good morning, Mr. Justin Waller.
Good morning. I don't know much, but I know one thing. I can't unsee the baseball diamond of the Northeastern Howlin' Huskies. Thank you, City of Boston, for ruining a perfectly good baseball diamond.
Okay, so I don't know what you're talking about.
It has a red infield like Boise State has.
Oh, really?
It's red.
Oh,
There's
wow.
no clay, no nothing. It's red, and I can't unsee it. It's horrible.
Wow. Well, now I forgot my intro. You're listening to the Armchair Quarterbacks. that really took me for a loop. Did you see it on Sports Center or something? Where'd you see
caught it on an alternate channel yesterday.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember. They were playing UMass. It's I think it's CAA conference baseball. But yeah, just I was flipping through, and it was just one of them. Like, what did I just see? And you had to go back to actually see if you saw what you thought you saw. And I saw a red baseball diamond. It was crazy. I'll get you a picture.
Okay.
Hey-o. Hey, what are you doing there, buddy?
I'm trying to smoke these hornets to death so I can get their honey. They keep flying up in the tube, stinging me all over my face. I think I just swallowed one.
As I tried to explain before, you cannot get honey from a hornet's nest.
I just don't think there's any science to support that, buddy.
There's some very basic science out there supporting that. Trust me, pal.
Charlie, we're going to get you back on the dating scene, bro. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's actually why we're here. We want to put your profile on Match.com. Let's talk about your likes and dislikes. How about your favorite food? What would that be?
Oh, milk steak.
What?
Milk steak.
I'm not putting milk
Just
steak.
put steak. Just
I'm going to put
regular
steak.
And then don't put steak. Put milk steak. She'll know what it is.
No, she won't know what it is,
She'll
Charlie.
know
Nobody
what it
knows what
is.
that is. No. Okay. All right. What's your favorite hobby?
Magnets.
Okay. What? Like making magnets, collecting magnets,
Playing with magnets.
Just magnets. I'm going to put snowboarding. We'll put snowboarding.
I don't really snowboard.
All right. What are some of your likes?
Ghouls.
What are you talking about now?
Funny little green ghouls.
What? Like in movies and cartoons? What?
Little green ghouls, buddy.
Don't write ghouls. I'm not. I'm putting travel. What are your dislikes?
People's knees.
Oh, come on,
Bro,
dude. Come on.
Cover your knees up if you're going to be walking around everywhere.
Armchair.
Community Access Channel.
He's the armchair quarterback. He's full of beer and he's full of snacks. The all-American man.
Hey, howdy, hi. Top of the morning to you. Welcome to the Armchair Quarterback Radio Show. I'm Mac McGee sitting alongside Justin Waller. Justin, how the hell are you this morning, sir?
I'm doing great, Mac. Supposedly maybe get to see a Braves game on TV today. I think the Pirates have their crew in town, so that should allow MLB TV users to catch a Braves game. So I'm looking forward to that. Bryce Wilson takes the mound, and let's get eastbound and down, because that's what I think of every time I see Mr. Bryce.
Yeah, Pittsburgh televises a lot of their games, so I'm glad that Pittsburgh's in our pod, or whatever you want to call it, with having them there and having Minnesota there and having Boston there. We should have a chance to see a decent amount of games. By the way, speaking of Boston, if you missed it overnight, Jackie Bradley Jr. signs with the Milwaukee Brewers a 2-year deal worth $24 million. This might be catching you by surprise because it happened pretty late in the night, but what's your first thoughts on that?
Man, $12 million a year. It's a lot in that outfield. I like it. I think it could pay off, because let's face it, the Brewers are going to have to make some moves to stay competitive out there. This regime they've ran out there is not going to sustain long term. They've got a lot of contract issues, so it provides them a little time and gives them stability in the outfield. I mean, it's probably a win-win for both. A little higher than I would have paid. I'm glad the Braves didn't jump in the $12 million market.
Yeah, if there was a DH, I think Atlanta would have been in the play for him, as well as the Mets, and there were a couple other teams rumored for him. Not having a DH kind of threw that off. If there's a DH, I would have loved to have JBJ. But that also tells you how much that Atlanta believes in Christian Pache, and there's been some questions whether or not Pache is going to come up with the team at the beginning of the year, or if they're going to try to season. I think it's his job to lose. I think the only way Christian Pache is not starting center field with the Atlanta Braves this year is if he just has a horrendous spring or something terrible happens, like an injury. Because if you can put Pache in center, then you can put Acuna where he belongs in right. You're going to have to hide Ozuna. I've heard so many fans talk about wanting to trade away Inciarte, but the reality is when you have someone like Ozuna, who's a defensive liability at this point in his career, you need to have Inciarte to come in the 8th and 9th innings, maybe even the 7th if it's a big enough lead, to get Ozuna out of the defensive outfield and be able to lock that down. Plus, it gives you ability to give guys days off. You give Pache days off. Inciarte can play anywhere in the outfield, so you can give Acuna a day off. But JBJ, I think people who have not watched the Red Sox over the last several years don't realize how good he is defensively, because that's not something that your sports centers tend to thrive on, defensive highlights. But I think he might surprise offensively too, because he was hitting really well towards the end of last year. So we'll see what happens with the Brewers. But that definitely very, very interesting move. There's still a couple of guys out there that you wonder where they're going to land. Shane Green is the one that comes to mind for me, and we'll see where that goes. It doesn't look like Atlanta's going to spend any more. So
No, I don't think they will, and they're definitely not going to be on the outfield pieces. I don't know if you've seen any of his clips this spring or not, but if you get a chance today, check in. If Michael Harris is on the field, man, he is getting rave reviews from Snit and everybody. This is the young kid that Markakis came back just blown away from last year when he decided he was going to opt out and then opt in. He had to go to the alternate training site, and he got stuck down there with Harris, and this kid really blown him away. And I heard a lot of chatter of him talking last year, but he seems to be excelling out there. He can play all three positions in the outfield. He's a platooner out there, and 19-year-old up-and-coming star. So that paired with Pache, and you've got Ronald Acuna Jr. out there, this outfield could be an amazing thing to watch for the next few years. Sounds exciting.
The problem with that is he won't be with the big club, because you don't put a 19-year-old up with the big club who's not going to play every day, because you can actually hurt his progress. I was actually thinking about this very thing the other day, Justin, about how different baseball is compared to football and basketball. Like professionally, you wouldn't think twice about having your young star on the bench in basketball, because you would give him the minutes that you could figure it out. Same thing with football. You would figure out where he can perform, yada, yada, yada. But when it comes to baseball, you constantly want the young kid getting the reps, whether it's the at-bats or it's innings pitched.
Yeah.
So if a kid's not ready to go, a team can have some phenomenal talent down in the minor leagues, and their average fan doesn't know about it because they don't want to bring them up. First of all, it starts their service time, which is different than any other sport. But then also, you just don't want a 19-year-old, a 20-year-old, a 21-year-old, what have you, a kid who doesn't have a lot of experience sitting on your pine. I'm going to be interested to see where Atlanta goes with their bench. It's almost become a foregone conclusion that the signing that they had, what was about a week or so ago, Jake Lamb is probably going to be one of their bench players. He can play first base, third base. I think he can even play outfield a little bit, like corner outfield. He's a left-handed stick. If you remember a few years ago, he actually had a pretty good year with Arizona. They thought he could be the heir apparent to when they traded Goldschmidt to the Cardinals, but that didn't end up working out. But he's still a solid bat. If we end up with, in all likelihood, a 5-man bench, because if they're going to have the rules that they had last, or we're going into last year with a 26-man rotation, 26-man roster, they're still on the fence about that. They're still saying they might do 28 because of the weird start, but as of right now, it's 26 and it's 13 on each side, meaning you can only have 13 pitchers. You're going to carry as many pitchers as you're allowed to, which means you're going to have 5 bench guys, especially in the National League, where you don't have you're going to have to pinch hit and whatnot, right? Because there was a report that came out last night that said it does not look like we're going to get expanded playoffs or the universal DH. It looks like it's a dead issue at this point. So, with that being said, if you had 5 guys that you would take with you up north, as they say, I definitely think it's going to be Lamb. I think Kipnis gives you a lot of flexibility, so you got to bring him. Assuming these guys play well in the spring. Now if Kipnis goes out there and can't find the strike zone or whatnot, then to hell with it. But I'm saying Kipnis, I'm saying Lamb, and Inciarte, as bad as he has been on offense, he's an incredible defender. And you're on the hook.
Yeah, you're on the hook for
like
$8 million.
Yeah,
you owe $8 million this year, and you've got a $1 million opt out or to buy out for next year if you want to come out of that. So
you're definitely doing that.
I mean, obviously, you would love him to have a great spring, and they could trade him somewhere and eat some of that salary. And honestly, they would cut him if it wasn't for the guaranteed money. So he'll be on the roster. He'll be a defensive. Let's face it, you're paying for Azuna's bat and Ender's defense, and just wish you could find a way to have them cover the field accordingly.
And base running too, for that matter. If Azuna gets a double late in the game, you probably put him on second base. So yeah. So let's say it's Lamb and Kipnis and Inciarte. Let's just say those are foregone conclusions. Who would you like to see them take up north as their extra two guys? I mean, is Camargo kind of? Are we stuck with him?
I mean, you got to go Camargo and Pache.
Well, Pache,
or you're saying Pache starting because you've got Ender on your bench. Okay,
right.
I see what you're saying. So Camargo, because you've got to have that shortstop. I know you say Kipnis can field it, but you've got to have that second and third, that left side of short and third, that side of the infield. So Camargo is there, and you got to carry a catcher. I'm sorry, you're going to need one.
And so I think,
I think you're right. It will not be, just to your point about Michael Harris, is William Contreras is not going to be sitting on the bench. It's going to be Jackson. They're going to keep him down there hot, ready, seeing baseballs, calling games, keeping the brain sharp, because anything happens to Darnold, he's on his way up.
Right, exactly.
Now, so Jackson I would be my fifth, I guess.
I think so. I think he's probably going to be. I would be shocked if it's not him, because Langoliers, they have high hopes for him. They don't want him sitting on the bench. The same thing with William Contreras. They feel like, look, Alex Jackson, I'd have to pull up his age, but I feel like he's in his mid-20s, because I remember going down and seeing him live at Brave Spring Training, and that's obviously pre-pandemic, and I already knew about him. Like, he wasn't someone that had just come onto the scene, so to speak. So he is a guy that it's, I hate to say it, but he is what he is, right? Like, he is without a doubt I think the other thing is, let me double check this real quick. I believe. Well, yeah, okay, so it would be between Jackson and Contreras. The reason why Langoliers isn't even on the 40-man roster. So if you put Langoliers on the 40-man roster, you got to drop someone. You don't want to do that this early in the season. So it really does come between Alex Jackson and William Contreras. And we've talked about this, but Contreras is a couple years younger than him. So Contreras is actually 23, and Alex Jackson looks like he's 25. Will be 26 later on this year. Both of them born Christmas Eve and Christmas. But so I guess it would have to be Alan Jackson. Is there anyone else that you've wonder, could this guy break through? Because I don't think there's a whole lot of question marks on what this out. The question mark comes to me is what is the bullpen going to look like?
Yeah, I'm not sure what they're going to do there. They've got a lot of young kids with club invites that Carl Edwards Jr. is throwing as well. Don't know how that will pan out. I believe it's just an invite. It's not he doesn't have any contractual obligation, so not sure what pans out. But they've got a lot of young arms that we're hearing some rumblings about, but I just don't know that any of them are going to be anything past that. Because as we know, I mean, we've heard rumblings about Pache forever, and it took this long just to see him finally start. So nothing's going to happen fast.
Let's say you have an 8-man bullpen, assuming that the starting rotation is Fried, Morton, Anderson, Smiley, and then if Soroka can get it together, Soroka would be the fifth guy. If not, you might have to throw Kyle Wright out there and just hope and pray. The bullpen, I think just because of the deals that were done, you're going to have Luke Jackson there, Minter, Matzik. I think Grant Dayton definitely gets in there. You definitely have Will Smith and Chris Martin. That basically gives you one more option. Now, Bryce Wilson might beat out Kyle Wright for the starting position, but I don't think they leave Bryce Wilson up in the majors to play bullpen because they want to keep him stretched out. Because if Kyle Wright falls flat on his face like we would expect him to do, you got to be able to pull Bryce Wilson back up, right? So is it Newcomb? I forgot about Josh Tomlin. So Josh Tomlin's there as well, and then you got Newcomb and you got Webb. We don't really have a big-time closer, but I can also see why they haven't signed guys like Shane Green because they're pretty full at bullpen of good bullpen arms. They may not have the outstanding great bullpen arm, but they've got the good bullpen arm. What say you?
Yeah, I'm like you. I'm trying to figure out where we're going to find that. I'm hoping that final piece, that lockdown closer. I'm still optimistic that somehow Newcomb's going to do this. I don't know why I keep going back to that one, but in my head, I just look at this kid and said, "You should be my closer."
If he could be what he was in the bullpen a couple of years ago, I just want him in the bullpen because that would give you 4 lefties.
Yeah.
Is that too many? Do you need more righties? I don't think so. But
has a roster ever had too many lefties?
I don't.
You never have enough. So this is a unique conundrum because it allows you to do things that no other roster can do.
Are they more likely to send Newcomb back down to make sure that he gets enough reps, and they start off with the Tomlin and like let's say a Jacob?
I think Kyle Wright's the guy out. They'll leave him off if he doesn't make the rotation.
Oh, Kyle Wright, yeah. Kyle Wright. The only way he makes the team is if he's in the rotation. If he's not in the rotation, he goes down and Bryce Wilson comes up. I would think that's what it would be, but I kind of forgotten until I said at the very end about Josh Tomlin. So Tomlin's got to come. You got to have Martin, Smith, Matzik, Minter, and Jackson. That's 6. So you could argue around the other two. 2 of these guys you believe is going to come up north. Dayton, Yanoa, Webb, and Newcomb. And they were pretty high on Dayton towards the end of the year. So I kind of feel like Dayton's going to make the roster. Hell, he's a lefty too. All right, yeah, there's no way that they're bringing yeah. So that's 5 lefties that they had to pick from, and they're probably only going to carry 3, maybe 4. And
you got Matzik and Minter as well.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I feel like Matzik, Minter, and Will Smith are gimmies.
That are duns. Yeah, guaranteed.
But you're going to pick one of these 2, Grant Dayton or Sean Newcomb. Newcomb's probably going to start off in the minors. It would be my guess. Man, and I'll tell you what, he's kind of long in the tooth to be starting down in the minors. He's going to be, can you believe this? Sean Newcomb is going to be 28 years old this year.
Wow, I did not realize he was that old.
I didn't either. If I was to guess, I would have said 25, 26 at the most.
Catch any of Smiley's action yesterday?
Grant Dayton? Are you kidding me? I didn't know Grant Dayton. Do you know how old Grant Dayton is?
I guess 31.
Okay. So you're a hell of a lot closer than I would have been. He's going to be 34 this year.
Wow.
I thought Grant Dayton was late 20s at the most. What did you ask for right before I blurted that out?
Yeah. Did you catch any of Smiley's action yesterday? Looked like an $11 million man in spring training.
No, because it wasn't televised, so I didn't get a chance to see it. Would you catch the highlights somehow or whatever?
I did. Pretty amazing outing. Gave a single on the first at bat and then shut down 6 batters in a row. they were pops outs and a ground out in the first inning, but the second inning came out and 3 consecutive strikeouts. Just blew him away. Had a nasty stuff on his curveball. Looked pretty good. I forgot that because he didn't pitch enough innings last year to count in the statistics. But remember, he's like 14.4 or 14.5 strikeouts per game. I mean, if he averages what he was doing in 19 and 20 and stays healthy, a lot of people forget he's a high strikeout guy. So could be interesting to watch. Now that he's fully healthy, I mean, he's had the troubles in 19 and 20 with his health. So if he can come back fully functional and then healthy, and that was a showing of what we're going to see, man, I'm telling you, Morton and Smiley, and you mix in a healthy Soroka and Anderson in that mix, you could see some nasty stuff out of this.
So maybe
rotation.
Kyle Wright or Bryce Wilson don't even make the opening day roster.
I think one of them has to. I don't know that Soroka's going to be ready. If he's not, they're not going to push him. There's no need to push him. It's a full season. We're not talking 2020 where you got a 60-game schedule and they've got to get him out there. So we don't need anybody getting hurt with a yoga ball trying to stretch out again this year.
That's all I ask, man. That's all I ask. I don't want to go through another year of I haven't even seen. I don't believe anyone's even taken the bait and signed Cole Hamels yet. Let's go ahead and take a quick break. When we come back, Joey's on his way, and we're going to talk a lot of things, including we're going to get into Major League Baseball. We're going to get into the Carson Wentz trade to Indianapolis. We'll speak to a Colts fans next here on the Armchair Quarterbacks. Keep it locked in here to CBS Sports Radio and YouTube Live.
The only one who's going to tell me when I'm through doing my thing is you people here.
Hey, Jacksonville, winter is the perfect time to start planning for your healthy, pest-free spring lawn with True Green, America's #1 lawn care company. True Green's science-based approach and local expertise will help give your lawn the year-round care it needs to be thick and weed-free. Go to truegreen.com/radio to save 50% on your first service. Just call 866-946-5956 or go to truegreen.com/radio today and get a lawn to be proud of.
That's the sound of NyQuil Severe hard at work. NyQuil Severe is the best sleep with a cold medicine. No tossing and turning, just rest and recovery. So you're ready to take on tomorrow. For powerful relief of your worst cold and flu symptoms, try NyQuil Severe. The nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, best sleep with a cold medicine. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
You're listening to CBS Sports Radio. We are all sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Strong opinions and your phone calls. Expect it here. CBS Sports Radio.
Lopez hits one deep to left field and down the line, and that one is fair. It hits the foul pole screen. 6-2.
Every morning this spring and summer, the Armchair Quarterbacks will be headed to Braves country. Along with the big headlines of the day, the Armchair Quarterbacks will be leading off with the Atlanta Braves, National League East, and everything in between. That's Braves country, right after batting practice, weekdays on the Armchair Quarterbacks.
Javi Lopez, who hit 14 during the regular season and can hit them as far as anybody.
I'm Amy Lawrence, and I'm up late, always, after hours, hanging out with you on CBS Sports Radio. Check it out, 2 a.m. Eastern, 11 p.m. Pacific.
New Year's resolutions. We've all made them. Mine is the same every year. Eat healthier. The eat part usually works out fine. It's the healthier part I forget about. But not anymore, now that I've found the oh-so-chocolatey Built Bar. Built Bars are low-cal, low-sugar, high-protein, high-fiber. Great for keto. Lose or maintain weight while indulging in a yummy treat. At 130 calories, you'll feel like making a resolution every day. Try all 18 amazing flavors. Get yours at BuiltBar.com.
You're listening to the Armchair Quarterbacks on CBS Sports Radio, #1 sports station.
Although edited, tonight's thriller contains suspense and violence which may be unsuitable. Parental discretion is advised.
Isn't that just like a wop? Brings a knife to a gunfight.
Good morning, CBS Sports Radio. Armchair Quarterbacks on YouTube Live, CBS Sports Radio, and however the hell you're illegally getting us. Welcoming on to the show for the first time in almost a month is Mr. Joey Ariel. Joey, how the hell are you, sir?
Oh, man, it's good to be back and talk some sports with the guys. Looking forward to today, and I'm glad you came back stronger than ever before, and let's get this thing rolling.
Man, I don't know if you know it or not, but you accidentally left up a terrible-looking jersey in your background. If you're going to hang Manning, it's got to be an orange Manning jersey. It can't be a blue and white. It's either got to be Denver or it's got to be the University of Tennessee. University of Tennessee preferred. Let's go ahead and get into what's happening, and then we will go from there. Scores from last night, real quick. Top 25 action. Villanova took out Creighton 72-60. Florida State all over Boston College. Boston College probably can't just wait for this season to end. They are now 4-14 on the season. Florida State wins by 29. Number 19, San Diego State over UNLV. And in the Southeastern Conference, a couple of interesting games last night as you had Missouri outlasting Florida 72-70 and Mississippi State beating Texas A&M. I believe we had some other ACC action as we check in on it. Yes, Syracuse over Clemson, who is a darling to get a decent seed. That's not a good look for the committee. They win 64-54, a big win for Syracuse as they are on the proverbial bubble. So is NC State. They get a W at Notre Dame. Wake Forest game and the Louisville, Virginia Tech game were canceled because of the coronavirus. Also going on in the world of sports this morning, Brett Boone, he is going to miss considerable amount of time. Is he going to get a pacemaker put in? And Kyle Van Noy was released by the Miami Dolphins. He signed a 4-year, $51 million deal just last year. He was the captain of the defense. He had a career high with 10 tackles for loss, and they still cut him. Tom Brady has been now elevated to 11 Super Bowl titles, as it came out in a story yesterday that evidently Terry Bradshaw used an alias going into a hospital to get arm surgery in 1983 and randomly picked the name Tom Brady. So there you have it. I'm going to claim that Tom Brady now has 11 Super Bowl wins. And John Lester will have his thyroid gland removed. He is expected to be ready for opening day, but Framber Valdez has fractured index finger for the Houston Astros. He will miss quite a bit of time. Major League Baseball announced last night they're going to start on June 2nd to have a Lou Gehrig Day. Man, that is well overdue. And Creighton's men's basketball coach, Greg McDermott, says he offered to resign after making the stay on the plantation post-game comment locker room speech that he apologized for a few days before. And this one I found funny. This one we'll end with. Jim Boeheim. This is after the game. Jim Boeheim was laid into a reporter who was asking why he hadn't played. The reporter originally asked a few ridiculous questions and then asked why he didn't play a couple of his players more often. And the quote is, "But if I'd played Jesse and Kaderi, we'd probably be 22-2 now, right? I just didn't see that. Couldn't figure it out by myself after 45 years of coaching. I need a reporter to figure that out for me who has never played basketball and is about 5'2".
Great answer.
Man, I'll tell you what, with Boeheim, sometimes I love him, sometimes I hate him, but that's definitely I love him right there. That was funny. I still can't get the image of him picking that boogie and eating it on live TV. And I'm like, ugh. Every time I see you now, it's all I'm going to think about. But anyways, funny quote. Joey, how the hell are you, sir?
Doing well today. I'm just, I like your, little change in setup in the background. I think we're on for great things. Baseball is just right around the corner. Free agency's on the way, and a lot of good things to come this month, I feel like.
So Justin and I got very excited when we saw the news that Carson Wentz was headed to the Indianapolis Colts.
So did I. So at least we can all agree.
Cam's healthier. You're going to be disappointed is all I know. Gonna wish you would have listened.
I mean, hey,
look, there's nothing saying that they don't sign him too, because they're going to need Carson Wentz. Are you seriously like excited about Wentz coming to the Colts?
I mean, absolutely. And here's multiple reasons why. He's only had one bad year in the NFL out of 4 where he was sacked the most in the league. That was last year. So he was sacked the most in the NFL. Colts have one of the best offensive lines. Check that box right there. His best year came under Frank Reich, who's now his head coach. Check that box right there. We didn't have to give up crap for him. The Eagles kept trying to say the Bears were involved, that all these first-round pick. No, we gave up a third-round pick this year and a second that could turn into a first next year if he plays 75% of the snaps. So our GM did a great job there as well. So, I mean, yeah, everyone is down on Wentz, but a lot of people were down on Phillip Rivers going into last year too, and look at the changes he made.
74% into the season, Carson Wentz gets shut down.
I mean, do you still feel comfortable knowing that Nick Foles is not on the roster with him?
I mean, yeah, I don't. I mean, Nick Foles. I mean, obviously, he's only had his good cups of tea while he's in Philly. I think Carson Wentz and the coach. Last year things just weren't working out in Philadelphia. A lot of things weren't. If we want to be honest about it, from the top down, a lot of things were wrong in Philadelphia. I mean, look at how they played that last game when they stupidly put in Sudfeld at the end to not even try to compete to help out other teams to make the playoffs. So, I mean, I think the Eagles organization was a mess last year. That was proven with the most sacks, as I alluded to earlier. And I gotta let it play out. I know there's a lot of haters right now, but again, Frank Reich, he's known at doing these things with quarterbacks. Look at just what he's done in his short years in Indy. So I'm looking forward to it. We didn't have to give up a haul. So worst comes to worst. Next year he sucks and we cut bait and we don't have to lose much money on that. But I don't think that would be the case at the end of the day.
Well, the one thing you've got going for you is the Tennessee Titans has no pass rush, and the Texans just traded away one of their best pieces. They've lost 2 over the past year. So aside from the Jaguars, you really don't have to worry about your sacks.
And I mean, look at it this way. I know I'm a Colts fan, so obviously there's going to be some bias as always, but I heard a ton of people last year say Phillip Rivers was washed up, and he had a pretty elite year for being 38 years old. Carson Wentz is only 28. He's got the body build for the NFL. He's got the arm. Now, what mentally was the big question around the league? Will that be able to change? Hopefully, things work out for me. Obviously, as you alluded to in the division, J.J. Watt was just also lost, even though his stats over the past few years haven't even been that good. He got overpaid to me down in Arizona. But, hey, sometimes you pay for what you do in your career, I guess, instead of what they've done lately. So we'll see how it works out. It's all on the table to be determined. I will not sit here and make, jokes at anyone for saying it won't work out, because I could see that happening as well.
Currently, they still have the worst quarterback in the division. I don't think that will be the case by the time that we get to kickoff of the 2021 season. And that's me assuming that the Jaguars are going to draft Trevor Lawrence. I think by the time we get to the season, I just don't think, in my heart of hearts, I do not see Deshaun Watson playing in Houston this year. Whether he holds out and they play a game of chicken with him, who knows? Or he gets traded. I just don't think Deshaun Watson ends up in a Houston uniform this year. So I think you're going to have Carson Wentz, Tannehill, and Trevor Lawrence in that division. And I think by the end of the 2021 season, I think we're going to see that Trevor Lawrence is the second best quarterback in the division, and Wentz will be the third. There's no telling what they're going to put behind center in Houston. With all that being said, looking at the AFC South big picture, I think you still have to put Tennessee as the odds-on favorite to win that division. And then depending on what happens with Wentz, I could see Wentz making them a division contender, but he's got to rewrite the past 2 years. It's not just been 1 year that he's sucked. He's sucked for 2 years. And it always seemed like the team didn't win much unless it was Nick Foles under center. Does that concern you?
I mean, the Super Bowl year, he was, I believe, 8-3 as a starter, or 11, and then in the playoff, he took the team to the playoffs, and then Javion Clowney hit him out of that one. So yeah, I know Nick Foles has done he's put the cherry on top for the Eagles.
But the following year he stunk, and all of a sudden they went on a run with Nick Foles.
I mean, statistically, last year is the only bad year I'm seeing out of the 4 years in Philadelphia.
I don't know what kind of metrics you're looking at. I'm going off of memory, and I remember 2019 being terrible. I remember 2020 being atrocious, and then 2017 was.
I mean, in 2019 he had 27 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, so I don't know how that would be terrible with 4,000 yards.
Because they weren't winning.
That's not all on a quarterback. This is a 54-man roster team. This ain't the NBA.
Tell him, Joey, you got to have more than 2 rings. You got to have more than 2.
Yeah, this isn't the NBA. Get out of here with that stuff. Carson Wentz is not run a whole team here. No matter how you slice and dice it, 27-7 is good with 4,000 yards. I don't care what anybody says. And I'm sticking to it.
Well, they were atrocious, and then Nick Foles took over, and they damn near made a run. The Saints were the only ones that got in their way.
I mean, like I said, I mean,
Nick Foles. They were winning with Nick Foles. This is the same Nick Foles that can't even start for the Chicago Bears right now.
No, and go ahead. Sorry.
Wentz is going to have a legit running game this year, something he hasn't had consistently year in, year out. I'm not going to completely just write him off. I think this could work. I think he has the better defense right now. I'm stacking Tennessee and Colts as 1A and 1B. I'm going to lean 1A, obviously. I'm going with my guys. Joey, I understand you're going to go with your guys probably, but I've got them very equal, and I think Wentz could, if he can pull a Tannehill and come out of this, take advantage of this newfound running game he has and a defense. It's not like he had a bad defense in Philly. He just couldn't sustain drives, and he wore his defense out a lot of times. So we see what if that translates into Indianapolis and he can use that running game, I mean, he could really excel in where he's at right now. Because it's like you said, the Texans are annihilating. I don't know if the Jaguars, even by drafting Lawrence, are going to be ready year number 1. I mean, they're going to win some games, but they're not going to take over the division in year 1 with Lawrence. There's going to be some growing pains there. And I still think you're looking at essentially the same rosters with the Titans and the Colts. The biggest need for the Titans is they've got to find a defense and a pass rush. So they have got they need everything at all 3 levels on the defensive side of the ball. Indianapolis doesn't need that. So honestly, I should put them as my 1A.
It's going to be very competitive. I mean, I will sit here and I right now probably would give, Tennessee maybe the little edge because Carson Wentz is so unknown. Obviously, if I think Wentz plays like he is capable of playing, that Colts would be the little bit of the favorite, but I would probably put Tennessee as this slight edge right now, just because of the unknown factor with Wentz. But again, a lot to be unfolded by that time, so we'll see.
I guess I'm in the minority here, but I do not believe in Carson Wentz, and I'll have a lot of fun with this all year long.
Like like you said, like the Jaguars will be better, but
I get it. You're drinking the Kool-Aid, but if Carson Wentz would have gotten traded to the Jaguars, you'd be laughing right now.
Well, I mean, yes, I would, because the Jaguars, I mean, they have the number 1 pick. Why would they? That would just make no sense at all.
I just picked them out of a hat. if they would have traded Carson Wentz to the Jets, you'd be laughing at the Jets doing Jets things.
But it's all about what you have to give up. I mean, our GM was smart enough to know not to fall for like the 3 for. At one point, they were trying to get a Matthew Stafford package. The rumor was, and the Eagles management totally screwed that whole thing up by trying to say other teams were involved. Clearly, we could all agree on this. If Wentz is successful, Indy's the team to do it, to get him back with his old coach, to get him behind a good offensive line with the run game. So if it doesn't work in Indy, his career is over. I think that's blatantly seen by all of us probably.
I mean, you can just go ahead and chop off the first part of that sentence and end it with the last 3 words. His career is over.
Now, what happens when Russell
I'm gonna
Wilson?
Get you back in August, September.
What happens when Russell Wilson replaces Deshaun
They're not going to
Jackson
get me back
Watson?
in December and January.
Neither will Jacksonville.
Well, Jacksonville, sure, they're starting with the rookie quarterback.
Andrew Luck went to the playoffs
and head coach.
As much as I have never liked Urban Meyer, I wouldn't put anything past that dude, man. So, Urban Meyer has not lost anywhere he's gone. So we'll see what he does.
NFL's a different game. NFL's a different beast.
He ain't passed the medical either. I mean,
he's said the same thing about Jimmy Johnson, and that dude wasn't half bad himself. So I don't know what kind of offense he's going to run down in Jacksonville, but Urban Meyer just seems like the type that gets things figured out. I've got more faith in Urban Meyer than I do Carson Wentz. I know that much.
I got more faith in Frank Reich than I do Urban Meyer. I know that much.
Nah. All right.
Yep.
All right. We'll see. We'll see.
Hey, this is a fun one.
Both.
This is all our This will be a fun topic, no doubt, in the future.
One thing we can agree on, the Houston Texans have not only will they have the worst quarterback in the division by kickoff, they will have the worst coach in the division by kickoff. Because you're talking about a hire out of nowhere. When they hire a 65-year-old dude from the Baltimore Ravens staff, he wasn't in any conversation, just out of nowhere. I mean, he must be someone's nephew or something, because they hire this guy and he's going to be in a division with Vrabel, Urban Meyer, and Reich. And I'm telling you, if you're a Houston fan, you've got a long decade in front of you.
That, or you're praying you can land Russell Wilson. I mean, because there's no other hope to come in and save you right now.
Do a swapsies. We'll give you our headache for your headache. Okay. I don't think. I'm sure Russell Wilson has a no trade clause. I don't think he's going to lift it to go to Houston.
Houston was not on the list. He's got 4 teams that are on there. I believe Dallas, the Raiders, and I can't remember the other 2 off
Chicago.
the top of my head, because Mayock was backpedaling, him and John Gruden talking about how they beat the table in the desk for Derek Carr, because there's rumors floating around that they may be interested in Wilson. So they're doing their backpedaling yesterday and the day.
Well, on my heart of hearts, just because of the way his contract is designed, I don't think Russell Wilson goes anywhere. I could be wrong on that one. By the way, did y'all see the home run that Wander Franco hit yesterday for the Rays? He's the number 1 prospect in baseball. He absolutely tattooed that ball. Did y'all catch that yesterday?
I did not.
I heard about it, but I didn't actually see it live.
I'm sure y'all caught the Jessica Mendoza. Man, you talk about going from Boog to Mendoza in back-to-back days, Justin. Good old Cubs baseball.
Well, yeah.
Is that who they rotated in for yesterday's game?
It was the ESPN broadcast, yeah.
Oh, I got you. Well, that makes a little more sense. I was about to say, poor Cub fans.
Sure. No, I mean, we're going to have to get used to it, because apparently Boog isn't doing all of our games this year. I'm sure because he still works for ESPN. And
does he?
Yeah. So he'll probably do, I think, somewhere like 75% of the Cubs games this season. And they're going to sub in like a Chris Myers was one of the names, and a couple other people. But yeah, with his other he does some main ESPN games and stuff like that. He won't fully be around.
He was a part of the Wednesday night baseball team, and I didn't know that he stayed at ESPN. I thought it was a full blown leave. That would be awesome if
that's news to my ears. If he's still going to be doing that, because I've literally been.
But now that makes me wonder: will Chipper Jones be on that Wednesday night broadcast as well? Because remember last year it was Boog and Chipper, and I want to say that they had a third person. I wonder if with Chipper doing his part-time role as a special assistant or whatever they crowned him with down in Atlanta. I wonder if that means that he'll still contribute on Wednesday night games, because that would be awesome. Because I thought the two of them together were phenomenal.
They definitely do a good job doing games. I agree.
Mendoza definitely does not.
No, might as well put Mina Kimes in there. Jesus.
Yes. Yes. Let's have a Mina Kimes, Jessica Mendoza tag team.
Awesome. Hell, just make A-Rod the on-field reporter.
Sunday night baseball is just unlistenable. You got to listen to A-Rod and Mendoza, and then Matt Vasgersian, they're doing his little quirky junk. I mean, it is just unlistenable now. Unbelievable. Okay, NL Central predictions. We'll go ahead and dive into this now because Justin's got to run here in a second. So, National League Central predictions. Justin, if nothing else, we need to get your predictions. How are you seeing the NL Central going this year? Go 5-1.
Ooh, I'm gonna go Pirates, Reds, Brewers, Cubs, Cardinals. You knew I wasn't gonna do it. And then honestly, I'm worried about that. That could. I don't know that the Cubs aren't selling by the trade deadline, and you got one of them white flag trades happening again where they're just selling off anything of value, because I don't really understand how they're attacking their rotation this season and what David Ross's master game plan is. But he's the Swami, so apparently he's the only one that needs to know.
All right, Joey, where do you got the NL Central?
I'm going Pirates 5, Brewers 4, Reds 3, Cubs 2, Cardinals 1. I actually do kind of like the Cardinals roster is just too good not to put first, really. I mean, the Nolan Arenado thing, to me, was the cherry on top. I know compared to the rest of the division, at least, it's not going to be the strongest division in baseball. Even though I think there's a little bit of depth there. There won't be any bottom feeders probably besides Pittsburgh. But I can't put my Cubs up there yet. There's, like Justin alluded to, the starting rotation isn't filled out, and the bullpen I'm still skeptical on. So I think the Cubs lineup could be pretty good, but to compete with the Cardinals, with the addition of, and then they have Flaherty and Mikolas and Wainwright, I think they're going to hands out win this division pretty successfully.
Well, I definitely think Pittsburgh's going to finish in the bottom. They're still in a full-blown rebuild. Mm-hmm. And I was on the fence here on who to put in the 4 slot, but I went ahead and went with the Reds. My question with the Reds is, are they going to do a sell-off? And if they do, then I can't bank on them because they've already traded a couple of pieces away. If they get off to a bad start, will they just look towards 2022 and say to hell with it? So I'm a little concerned about that. No longer having Trevor Bauer as your anchor really affects everything in your pitching staff. So then my number 3 team, I'm going to go with the Cubs. I don't believe when you lose Yu Darvish and you lose John Lester that makes you a better team. And my concern is if the Cubs get off to a rocky start, there are guys like Chris Bryant that they are definitely looking to move. And what will they do? How long will they stay in there? So I've got the Cubs down at number 3. I think their offense will produce. I just worry about not just their bullpen, but their starting pitching makes me a little leery. And then I'm putting the Brewers at number 2. And this is before I even knew Jackie Bradley Jr. was going to sign with them. I had Milwaukee there by a slight edge over the Cubs, but the JBJ addition really puts them over the top for me because now they're going to have a pretty darn good offense. And Milwaukee just always finds a way to build their pen, and they play, I call it Tampa ball, where they'll go out there and they'll roll out, openers, as they say, got to pitch 1 or 2 innings, and they find their way through the rotation. Woodruff is still one of the elite pitchers in the National League, and I think they're going to be hell on wheels. They're one of those really pesky teams that find a way to win, and you're at the end of the year like, how the hell did they win 87 games? And you look at the roster and you're still lost. But I think that's going to I just think that offense is going to pop this year, and I don't expect Yelich to have the down year that he did last year. And then, of course, that leaves me with St. Louis. I don't know if they're going to run away with the division, but I think that they should have a pretty healthy lead in September because the pitching is going to be there. They added Arenado. I think addition by subtraction by losing Colton Wong, to be honest with you, because they could never figure out where to put him in their lineup. Colton Wong's going to do better in Milwaukee than he ever did in St. Louis. And so St. Louis can move on from that nonsense. And then there's other guys that they've got coming back this year that, depending on where they decide to slate them at, look, they've got some pen guys that could end up in the rotation. And then Carlos Martinez is supposed to be back in the starting rotation, and they're expecting big things from him as well. So that's where I got it. I might have egg on my face at the end of the year, but I got this feeling about Milwaukee. They're going to have another one of those pesky runs. Justin, what is your walk-off, sir?
Well, it's kind of sort of a suggestion and a question at the same time to you gentlemen and to Major League Baseball. But with fans being able to return to the stand, and we're seeing in spring training games, can we have the anti-maskers sit behind home plate where it doesn't look like I'm watching Contagion or Outbreak? I mean, go back to the cardboard cutouts behind the plates. I don't need to see everybody. I mean, I'm just watching a replay down at Palm Beach, Mets St. Louis, and I mean, good God, it looks like everybody's scared for their life behind home plate. Can we not put those guys there? We're gals. I'm not singling out. Just let them sit on the first base dugout side.
So today,
I'm going to play something for you that I think some people might have missed this. Speaking of that, I say they just do all the games in Texas this year. How about that? And Mississippi as well, because they made a much similar announcement. But Justin, here's my walk-off for you. Watch this.
So today, I'm issuing a new executive order that rescinds most of the earlier executive orders. Effective next Wednesday, all businesses of any type are allowed to open 100%.
And there you have
that includes any type of entity in Texas.
Okay. And then
Texas.
And then he's also what I cut off there because I didn't realize that he had still had more on there. What he also says is that he's also lifting the mask rule next Wednesday as well. So, and evidently Mississippi's doing the same thing. I don't know if their timelines are exactly the same. I would say Florida is going to
look. I don't want to get our inbox blown up with hate mail, and I'm sure our inbox guy doesn't care. But listen, if you're that worried, wear your mask off the camera. I'm going to sports to be able to stay away from it. So quit blasting it right there on TV. I mean, that's what your political channels are for.
Let people choose.
Yeah.
God.
I mean, it's been a year.
Come on.
It's been about a year since our 2-week shutdown began.
I'm just excited to see moving cutouts, although it is kind of a distraction, and I can't wait till the actual regular season starts and you got the beer guy going up and down behind there, and I'm like, hey man, I'm trying to get locked into this pitch count here, and can't have you taking an order in the first row.
Nothing is stopping you from wearing a mask going into a store. So,
correct.
There you go with that. And as far as with it being worn in restaurants and everything, most people take the damn things off as soon as they sit down anyway. So what good is it doing?
Yeah, the little hostess that asked you to wear it the 20 feet to walk from her little stand to the table was kind of funny, but just an observation.
And it's also still going to be up to each individual business. So just because you say you don't want to wear a mask and Texas says they don't want to wear a mask, if you walk into a local grocery store and their procedure is you got to wear a mask, because maybe they do it because the rest of the country, let's say it's a major chain, and they say, no, we still want everyone to wear masks. Then you still have to wear a mask to go into their store. So,
or you have the option of shopping somewhere else. We don't need
Sure.
cancel culture. There you
Sure.
go.
Poor Dr. Seuss.
There you go.
Poor Dr. Seuss.
See you, gentlemen. On that note, I got to go anti-mask and get some work done.
Hey, it was nice talking to you again, Justin.
Good to see you, Joey. I hate that you missed out on Cam, but he's still available.
You guys really ruffled my feathers to start this show. It's going to be a fun, long off season.
Well, one thing you'll learn about us, too, is we make up for lost time. You don't get away with anything.
We'll be back in a flash here on the Armchair Quarterbacks.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're listening to the Armchair Quarterbacks on CBS Sports Radio, #1 sports station.
Good morning, and this is your Armchair Quarterbacks Sports Flash. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department executed a search warrant to get data from the so-called black box in the SUV that Tiger Woods was driving when he seriously injured himself in a car crash last week. Quote, "We're trying to determine if a crime was committed. If somebody is involved in a traffic collision, we've got to reconstruct the traffic collision if there is any reckless driving. If somebody was on the cell phone or something like that. We determine if there was a crime. If there was no crime, we close out the case and it's a regular traffic collision." The Sheriff's Department also said there was no probable cause for a warrant to obtain Woods' blood, which would help determine whether he was under the influence of medication. Tiger Woods, 45 years old, is recovering at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles. Former NFL player Kellen Winslow Jr. was sentenced Wednesday to 14 years in prison for multiple rapes and other sexual offenses against 5 women in Southern California, including one who was homeless when he attacked her in 2018. The 37-year-old son of Chargers Hall of Famer Kellen Winslow Sr. appeared via video conference at the hearing in San Diego. Winslow declined to comment before his sentence, saying his lawyers had advised him not to speak. Kellen Winslow was drafted by the Cleveland Browns in 2004 out of the Miami Hurricanes and spent 4 seasons with the team, being named to the Pro Bowl in 2007. He also played for the Buccaneers, New England Patriots, and New York Jets. Major League Baseball games today that will be televised on MLB.TV as well as elsewhere. The Rays and Twins are on the Sun Network. They're also available on Fox Sports North. Braves and Pirates are on ATTP TV. Yankees and Phillies on NBC Sports Philadelphia. All those games are at 1:05 Eastern. At 1:10, the Nationals and Mets are on ESPN. And at 3:10, Angels, D-backs are on both of their affiliates, as well as Brewers and Indians are also on both of their affiliates. Cubs and Dodgers tonight on Sportsnet Los Angeles. And that's your Armchair Quarterback Sports Flash. Stay tuned for more of the Armchair Quarterbacks radio show and YouTube Live. Please like, subscribe, and share our show today. The Armchair Quarterbacks, your first choice for sports talk, live from the First Coast.
Geico knows there are many reasons why you ride. From the exciting adventure of the daily commute to the peace of mind that Geico always has your back with 24/7 access to claim service and legendary customer service. But Pamela Mund had one reason in particular.
My skin is extremely averse to most fabrics, except for the soft, buttery feeling of leather. Thankfully, I found my clan of leather lovers in the biking community. It's been life-changing.
Geico Motorcycle. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
I'm Amy Lawrence, and I'm up late, always, after hours, hanging out with you on CBS Sports Radio. Check it out, 2 a.m. Eastern, 11 p.m. Pacific.
In our sundown perambulations of late, through the outer parts of Brooklyn, we have observed several parties of youngsters playing base, a certain game of ball. Let us go forth a while and get better air in our lungs. Let us leave our close rooms. The game of ball is glorious. Walt Whitman. Brooklyn Eagles 18-14.
CBS Sports Radio, good morning. Welcome back here to the Armchair Quarterbacks. We got one more segment before we have to dip out for the day. And Joey has not been with us, so I'm going to lay off him a little bit. Joey has not been with us since the Super Bowl. So we're going to let him brag about his Tampa Bay Buccaneers, his quasi-second team. I too was happy that they won. I was a much bigger Buccaneer fan when I was younger, and then you get to where you just kind of hone in on the one team. But they've always been my favorite NFC team. Those and the Giants, and then Dolphins and Titans in the AFC. Starting to pull for Jacksonville as I live here in the city, but I don't have a real emotional attachment to the Jaguars because they were, though I was born here, they were not here, or I was not here when they first arrived. I had moved away. So that's why, because people ask me all the time, why the hell are you not a big Jag fan? And I'm like, because I lived in Nashville for like 20 years. And I was there when the team came there, all the PSLs. I always had friends that had extra tickets, and I went to a lot of Titans games. And so I am going to try to pull for the Jaguars. I'll tell you what, you're still not going to get me at a damn game. Because I'll tell you, you talk about one of the most uncomfortable things to do. See, you live in Chicago, and your brother lives in Chicago too as well, right?
Correct. Yep.
So it's easy to be a Bucks fan in Chicago as opposed to being a Bucks fan in Florida, and you actually have to expect you to go to the game because it's like 98 degrees, dripping sweat. There's like 2 home games a year where you're comfortable, and the rest of the time you're like, this is terrible. I don't want to be out here. As much as I love baseball and I love watching minor league baseball, I don't like going out to the minor league baseball game unless I've checked the weather and make sure that it's not like 98 degrees with 78% humidity beating down on you. So that's it. When I lived in Nashville, there was like 2 games that it wasn't comfortable to go to because you can always throw layers on.
Oh yeah.
But man, you can only get so naked. So
don't want to become part of cancel culture there, being naked at the stadium.
But the Bucks did win their second Super Bowl, but Tom Brady his 7th. I think it's more important to focus in on that because no matter what all the knuckleheads will say, Tom Brady won that Super Bowl. Tom Brady brought this team wasn't even a thought process of being a Super Bowl contender this time last year. Because Brady hadn't, I think Brady signs about 2 to 3 weeks from today, a year ago. So he brings a Super Bowl in 1 year, which I thought was unfathomable. When we did our early preseason predictions and I picked the Bucks, the only reason I gave that was because I didn't want to be on the wrong side of history, right? But I didn't really believe that Tom Brady could right the ship of the Buccaneers in one season. I thought he would get to a Super Bowl before he left Tampa. But, man, in one season, that guy gets him there. What say you?
It kind of ended up being like and I agree with you. I thought it was kind of a year early, which, hey, sometimes it's the time to do it, right? Everyone probably prepped the Buccaneers as a team going into this offseason after actually having the offseason program and all that he could get together. But it was very impressed, obviously, by the whole thing. I mean, it was kind of the perfect storm, as I said, because Tom Brady, the one thing was he never really had all the weapons they talked about to him. And then you go to a Tampa Bay squad where they just came off a 7-9 season. Winston had 1 million picks, 1 million touchdowns. And, Tom Brady being able to be the winner and smart man that he is, he realized, hey, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, and, oh, yeah, I bring a plethora of guys with me. Leonard Fournette probably isn't a Buccaneer if Tom Brady's not there. Antonio Brown's probably not a Buccaneer unless Tom Brady's there. And, Scotty Miller, the season he had probably doesn't happen without a Tom Brady there. So it all ended up working out, and the defense obviously came up pretty big too. But I'm mostly happy because, like you said, with the unbearable weather in Tampa, my dad, would take my brother to the training camps at 6, 7 in the morning before the heat really set in, when the Bucks would be 2-14, 3-13, and all that. So obviously I had some bias with Tampa Bay and the family, but the real diehard Tampa Bay fans deserve this, because it's been a brutal 18-year stretch until Tom Brady came to town. And since 2002, when they beat the Raiders, it's been probably one of the worst franchises up until Tom Brady signing with them.
Yeah, the 2002 season, I was still really into the Bucks because they had a lot of Florida State guys on that team. In fact, their quarterback Brad Johnson was a Seminole. Of course, Derek Brooks was there. I always forget the Super Bowl MVP of that game.
Dexter Jackson, was it?
Jackson, yeah.
Okay.
He was a Seminole. And so I always want to call him Dexter Bush, because I think of Devin Bush of Florida State long before there was the current Devin Bush. But they always, like, the entire time I was growing up, they always had a pretty thick, I'd say between 3 to 6 guys on the roster were always Florida State guys. So they became my second team because of that very reason. Because when my dad was still with us, when we would watch the NFL, he would get more excited to watch an ex-Florida State player, because my dad graduated from Florida State. So he would get more excited to watch an ex-Florida State player than he ever really got excited about a particular team per se. So he would get me rooting for the teams that had the most Seminoles, and it just always seemed like the Tampa was right there. So Derek Brooks, behind Deion Sanders, is my all-time favorite NFL player. When I was a kid, if you asked me that, it would be a quarterback. It would have been Dan Marino. But as I got older, I got to where I was more about who played at FSU and whatnot. So Derek Brooks is my all-time favorite player, and Deion Sanders. Derek Brooks barely went above Deion Sanders in my book. There was just a lot of reasons. But one of the reasons was Deion Sanders ended up playing for a lot of teams I didn't like. He played for the 49ers. He played for the freaking Cowboys. I mean, I couldn't pull for him. I would want him to do well. He played for the freaking Ravens. I mean, he played for the freaking Redskins. I mean, it was every team he picked. I was like, God, when he was at the Falcons, I was like, all right, I can get behind this. I'm not a Falcons fan, but it's the same city as the Braves. I can get behind this. And then that was it. As soon as he became free agent, he made terrible decision after terrible decision. So Derek Brooks became, my favorite NFL player, probably of all time. And so it was good to see I still wish they would go back to the old helmets. Even if they wanted to change the color, the scheme of the helmet, Bucko Bruce is so much cooler than that wannabe Oakland Raider junk that they've got on there. That and the New England Patriot helmet, to me, are the two worst in the NFL. And I don't know if I think that because I know how great their old helmets used to be. So it pisses me off that they currently have the terrible helmets. I'm not a big fan of Denver's either. You notice I got what looks like the Denver Broncos, but that's actually the Bull Durham. But Denver's logo looked very similar to this. Mm-hmm. And the newer jerseys, the newer helmet schemes to me in the NFL are terrible. But anyways, we'll get off that tangent. Tom Brady gets his 7th Super Bowl, and I found this interesting. I wanted to get your take on this. So many people start arguing back and forth about, is he the greatest athlete of all time? And the Brady haters won't give him his due, because they're going to say, well, he's not that athletic, and he played the ultimate team sport, and so da-da-da-da. But he's got 7 Super Bowls, and the closest to him would be 4 with Montana and Bradshaw, right? You're not even in the same stratosphere when you're talking about 7 compared to 4. And I've got a feeling he's not done. I don't know if he'll win it this coming year, but I feel like Brady's going to get 8. I got a feeling he's going to get to 8.
Well, and that's the scary part about all this is, Obviously he keeps getting older, but the TB12, whatever goes on in that regiment and routine for him, I see at least 2 more seasons out of him. I mean, like you said, who knows if he'll exactly win again this year? It's very hard to repeat, but I mean, I know greatest athlete of all time can mean a different, amount of things to people. Some literally say about the athlete, but I mean, 7 Super Bowl championships, like you said, it's not like people are right on his tail. Some franchises can't even get on his tail, let alone just quarterback wise. So, I mean, I just definitely think that Tom Brady has to always be in that discussion and probably is number one just because of how much success he's not only brought into himself, but a city now in Tampa Bay where it's looking like a likely destination for the future. I think that's what some people miss too is the future of Tampa Bay. Yeah, it probably won't be bright right away once Tom Brady and Bruce Arians leave, but they built a foundation where people may want to go to Tampa Bay more than just be like, oh my gosh, it's 95 degree plus the games we're playing the team always sucks. I think this will do a lot of good for that future organization as well. Cause Jason Light, the GM of Tampa, has done a good job there. And I mean, obviously makes it easier when you have the best athlete of all time, in my opinion, but I think the future is bright in Tampa Bay.
So when they try to throw the Serena Williams is better because she has 23 championships. Now, first of all, if you're going to go by that purely, Margaret Court's got 24, so you go ahead and step that aside. I do think Serena it's more impressive what Serena did than what Margaret Court did, because back in Margaret Court's days, I mean, literally, it was her against like nobody. And so my point with that is when you go 23, she's won 23. To me, in tennis, not in golf, but in tennis, and this is men's and women's, a championship of the Grand Slams, to me, is the equivalent of a playoff win, because you don't get that many, and the most you could acquire in an NFL season would be 4. If you have a perfect NFL playoff record, right? Well, that would be the equivalent to the Grand Slam. So I've always equated it to, don't give me that 23 versus 7. It's Tom Brady's 34 versus your 23. He's 34-11 all time in the playoffs. Wrap your head around that, y'all, because most people have a losing record, and if they don't have a losing record, they barely have a winning record. 34-11 is just stupid when you put it up against everyone else's.
I agree with you on. I mean, I agree with you on your whole statement there. Actually, just about because I heard that on ESPN right away. They started saying Serena Williams, the 23-7, but I completely agree. 30-4-11 is just outrageous. I mean, look at the jersey behind me, Peyton Manning. He had an under 500 record in Indianapolis for a while before he got over the top. So, I mean, it is not easy to win playoff games in the National Football League. And Tom Brady has made it look easy in his career.
So I've got Brady as the greatest athlete of all time. And I'll have some friends that'll tell me, well, what about Yogi Berra with his 10 World Series rings? That's cute and all, but Yogi Berra played in an era where there were no playoffs. So you won your pennant and then you went directly to the World Series. And so when you win your 10 playoff games or 10 playoffs or 10 World Series, you've really only won 10 playoff series. So that's not as impressive to me. Your 10 for Yogi Berra is not as impressive to me as Derek Jeter's 5. Because he had to go through so many more hoops to jump through.
So what do you think about like Bill Russell then in basketball? I know it's a different sport, but like, how do you do the NBA championships in your mind with this discussion?
I don't think you can even compare the eras in the NBA, because first of all, there were less rounds.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that there were only a total of 3 rounds.
Okie dokie.
Okay. And that's including the NBA finals.
Right.
If memory serves me correct. And then to top it off, the sport was pretty damn new. Okay. And the rules were much different. You used to be able to camp out in the lane. You can't do that anymore. So Bill Russell lived in the lane. Even when they created the 3-second violation, it took them forever to actually enforce it in the NBA. So it's a totally different sport. And I don't think Bill Russell rattles off 10 championships or 11 championships with the Celtics. And I'm a big Celtic fan, but I don't think he rattles that off in the modern era at any point in time. It's just like when people talk about Jordan being the greatest because he has 6 championship rings, and that's the most of guys not named Robert Horry. That's the most of the elites in the modern era. Okay, but also he had to wait for Bird and Magic to get old and retire before he could win the first one. When he played Magic in the first finals, Magic, everyone forgets Magic didn't play the last 3 games. He was hurt. And during the era of the 80s, Jordan could not get through the Celtics and the Pistons. Then they came up with the Jordan rules, and all of a sudden he got through, and everyone thinks Jordan rules. See, it has changed the meaning over the years. Jordan rules, when it first came out, people talked about, dude, Jordan gets away with everything. Then they tried to say that it was different because people were banging Jordan, and then they came up with rules to keep them from banging Jordan. They didn't come up with those rules to stop people hammering Larry Bird going down the lane. They didn't come up with those rules stopping Magic Johnson hammering him going down the lane. They did it because they knew it was a television show, and they were trying to have him as free as possible to have the oohs and ahs of him jumping through the air. So I don't even put Michael Jordan over Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. I put them all even because it was a different era. And pre-1990 basketball, man, it was a bloody competition. So I think it's really hard to decipher those. But when I look at the whole in capsule, I just honestly believe that Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, and Magic Johnson are all on the even playing field, right? There was no one on their level for 20 years, okay? Just like I would put Kobe on that, I would put LeBron on that because they've dominated their eras.
Mm-hmm.
But Tom Brady's doing stuff that nobody's come close to. See, the thing is, you can go, well, Jordan had 6 championships. Yeah, but Kobe had 5, so he's right there in the conversation with them, right? So did Magic Johnson, right?
Mm-hmm.
No one's even come close to 7 Super Bowl rings as a quarterback, starting quarterback.
Can't even sniff his jockstrap at this point.
I mean, he's almost doubled what was considered the GOAT growing up as a kid was Joe Montana. He's almost doubled his output. It's insane. Shifting gears, but before we have to take off here, I hate to leave that conversation, but I feel like we're not going to get into this if we don't do it now. The college basketball, are you into Illini basketball, or do you watch college basketball?
So I mean, college basketball, I don't really have a team per se. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm a huge Illinois fan. I have paid attention to them a lot this year. They just had a great win over Michigan the other night. And yeah, between them and Loyola, it's a fun time.
And their best player wasn't even playing. That is insane.
No, it was unreal. I mean, that was just pure dominance. The game was never close. But, between Illinois and Loyola, things have been really fun in this state for college basketball. And even though the March Madness schedule seems a little interesting this year, to say the least, with they moved like days around and stuff like that. But pretty happy overall. Like I said, I don't follow a team per se all the time, but I follow the league as a whole, and very happy to see that Illinois will probably get a 1 seed maybe now. Could potentially get a 1 seed at this point.
By the way, tonight in the Big Ten, you got number 2 Michigan trying to get off the Schneider. They're hosting Michigan State on ESPN at 7:00. That should be a good game. On the Deuce, you've got number 3 Baylor at home against number 17 Oklahoma State. So that should be a good game too. So you got a couple of good college games. Next week, when you join us, we're going to be right in the middle of conference tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
So this is always my favorite part of the spring. When you once we can get to conference tournaments, it starts to, I mean, this week has been kind of it was our first week back, and I still feel like we were just kind of dredging through to get to it because I can't wait till next week. You're gonna have the conference tournaments, and of course that'll roll into the March Madness. The NBA All-Star Game is this weekend. Are you planning on watching any of it?
To be honest with you, the only reason I will tune in at all is to watch the 3-point before, and then maybe check out the dunk at halftime. But my interest is low this year. I'm even surprised they went down there because LeBron at first was, he cracks me up. He always says things like, I'm not going to rest or I'm not going to go to All-Star game. And then here he rested yesterday. He'll be at the All-Star game this weekend. But my interest isn't too high. If it wasn't for Zach LaVine finally getting the Bulls an All-Star for the first time in many years, I wouldn't have much interest, but I will just because of Zach LaVine and the games being played. But the actual NBA All-Star game itself, no, I do not care to watch much.
I can make a pretty strong prediction. I won't watch a single second of it.
And I don't blame you.
I've not watched it in regular. I've not watched the All-Star game. I don't think in about 20 years. I used to watch the 3-point championship. I lost interest in the slam dunk championship right around the little past when Vince Carter won it. It got really dull. I do remember the Blake Griffin one. I was at work that night and it happened to be on, and I watched that, and that was pretty cool, him jumping over a car. But I just feel like they've run out of tricks and if you're not going to have the big name guys in there, I don't care if some no name on the Atlanta Hawks bench can have a pretty slam dunk. I want to see what a LeBron James can do. I want to see what a Kawhi Leonard could do. If you're not a major all-star, I don't care about you in that realm. In the 3-point championship, I used to be into it, but I don't care anymore. And now they're going to do it during the game, I guess at halftime or whatever. Less of a chance of me watching it because I won't sit through the game to watch that junk. So I have no plans to watch it at all. College basketball, there's one thing I want to leave you with this.
Okay.
There's a good chance Florida State's going to win the ACC tournament. I mean, the ACC championship regular season. They are currently, I believe, 15-4. They're 11th in the country. They need one more win at Notre Dame Saturday to clinch, or they need a loss by Virginia. Regardless, they're probably going to be the ones, the regular ACC champion. And Joe Lunardi recently set out his new bracketology rankings. He's got them as a 4 seed. Now, if if North Carolina or Duke were going to win the ACC with a 15-4, could be 16-4 record, is there any way in hell, and I don't care if about the pandemic, et cetera, is there any way in hell that they're a 4 seed?
No chance.
I just think it's blatant disregard for a really good Leonard Hamilton basketball team just because their jersey isn't a blue blood. As they say down in Tallahassee, we're new bloods, right?
Well, yeah, Krzyzewski, what a baby he was this whole year anyway.
Yeah, and you know what? I used to really pull for him. And this year, I'm kind of glad to see him. I don't want to see them in the tournament. He's been such a
baby,
titty baby. I mean, there's another word for it. Everything was everybody else's fault.
Yeah, exactly. Point the finger.
It's been really hard to coach this year and really because Leonard Hamilton found a way to do it, and he's 72 years old. He got a 5-year extension because he kicked so much ass this year. I don't know. And that could just be the Florida State fan in me, but I just don't think there's any way on God's green earth Duke or North Carolina are a 4 seed if they're sitting atop the ACC any other year. But because it's Florida State sitting on top, they think they automatically say it's a down year for ACC basketball. They're not any good because you're letting Florida State win. By the way, this will be their second ACC title if they can get that win on Saturday. Back-to-back years, I mean.
Well, I want to get
and last year, I thought we were underrated. We were blowing the cut. I don't want to say we were 28-4 at the end of the regular season, and they were going to have as a 2 seed.
And I mean, just from afar, I don't know, real quick here, I don't know exactly a ton about Florida State, but I want to say Patrick Williams has been very surprisingly nice as a rookie. And a lot of people didn't want him as the 4th pick at Chicago Bowl, but a lot of people are happy right now. So whatever the Florida State program does to, balance players and help them grow, I think they're doing a great job down there.
You're going to see the same thing this coming draft. They have a kid by the name of Scotty Barnes. That once again is not starting for Florida State, but he is going to be a lottery pick. And he's special. He's trying to think of someone he's a small forward that very athletic, still raw as all get out. I think he's 19 years old. But Scotty Barnes is going to be an elite, and MJ Walker, who's a senior, will be a nice fit for someone coming off the bench in the NBA. Leonard Hamilton's got it going, and he's got a recruiting class this year that right now is ranked number 2 in the country. So he's got it rolling, but it just pisses me off that they don't give Florida State more credit for doing what they're doing. I'm not even gonna say they're going to go out there and win the national championship, but my point is, if you win the ACC any other year, you're guaranteed at least a 2 seed.
I was going to say they should be a 2 or a 3. 3, probably a 2. I would go probably a 2.
Now I wonder if they run the table and win the ACC title, if that'll give them get them higher. But I almost don't want them to try to do that. I'd rather get them rest and get them ready for the tournament. All right, it's time to turn back time and do our walk-offs as we go to get the hell out of here. You'll notice the sound changed just a bit because I had to the powers that be keep hitting me with copyrights on our song. So I had to, it's still technically the song, but it is a different version. I got tired of getting hit. Okay, on this day in baseball history, the San Francisco Giants, due to intervention of San Francisco Mayor George Moscone, stay in the city by the bay. It is a last-minute deal. I mean, they were this close, y'all. People don't realize this. The Giants were this close to leaving San Francisco to head to Canada. And in a last-minute deal, the mayor stepped in and got money, $8 million, to keep them there. Labatt's Brewery was one of the main ones that was trying to bring them to Canada. So you could have had the Toronto Giants going along all this years. Also, speaking of college basketball, on this date in 1970, Jacksonville University finishes their regular season and becomes the first college basketball team to average over 100 points per game. That team would go on to the national championship game, lose to the mighty UCLA juggernaut that was, but JU, Little Jacksonville University, was it 51 years ago today? Not only did they set that record, but can you imagine JU getting to the national championship game in college basketball is the equivalent of like when George Mason went on their run several years ago, but they didn't even make it that far. It's unbelievable. I remember hearing about that when I was a kid. I would, growing up here in Jacksonville, I was like, what? Jacksonville went to the national championship game. 2 years later, Florida State did it. Florida State was not by any means any kind of a powerhouse. They weren't in the ACC or anything like that. So 2 of 3 years, if you lived in the North Florida area, you're pretty damn happy during March. Birthdays.
It's your birthday today.
I just got one circle today because I was a little surprised that he's turning 31 years old today, born in Saginaw, Michigan. Mr. Draymond Green of the Golden State Warriors. Happy 31st birthday. Have you seen the new Subway commercial with him and Jason Tatum?
I have.
That is funny stuff.
Yes, it is.
Because when they're going back and forth about my sandwich has this and my sandwich has that, and the Draymond goes, my sandwich has more rings. And it goes back to Tatum, goes, mine has bacon. Unbelievable. What's your walk-off for the day, sir?
2 real quick notes. One, the Big Ten tournament just released to allow capacity of 8,000 attendees for next week.
Nice.
So, I mean, from last year when everything ended abruptly, it's nice to see that they're getting fans in there instead of being coronavirus hungry. So that's good. And then, hey, you see that Peyton Manning jersey back there? I'm waiting until Carson Wentz gets his number, and I will get that hung back there because I know how much crap I'm going to get this offseason. I love that you started the show that way. We're going to have a great offseason. We're going to have a great summer, and I'm just happy that the Armchair Quarterback Show is back in full action.
Yeah, we're happy to be back. Next week really gets us going because we'll be into March Madness. And then, of course, that'll roll us into baseball season. We'll have a lot of fun picking on your terrible Cubs. By the way, in comparison, when you're saying the Big Ten, now that shocks me. When you're saying that the Big Ten is going to have 8,000 people in the stands, I saw a report yesterday, the Southeastern Conference tournament is only going to have 3,400. So that's a big step. That's a big step up.
It is.
And that's being played in Nashville. Nashville is one of the weirdest cities politically because it sits in a very, very red state, but it's a very, very blue city because of all the entertainers and whatnot. But that's a great news because, man, it's time to get them back in the stands. Look, even if you got to socially distance because you're bugging out still, okay, fair enough. But stop it with this, I'm still seeing games where there's no fans, and I'm like, what are we doing? Opening day,
Chicago's terrible at it.
Ugh, Lightfoot.
Oh, yeah. We had to end on that name. Please give us another name.
I can do a whole show on Lightfoot. I'll give you another name. They're calling Governor Cuomo Handsy Andy.
How did it? That's just so funny about cancel culture in a nutshell. I know we're leaving, but that guy he deserves everything that comes to him.
They no longer have Trump to tear up, so they're eating their own.
Keep doing it.
It's hilarious to me. It's just, but I had to laugh so hard. The New York Post had hit the picture with him holding that girl's face. And they're calling him Handsy Andy. You know what gets me about that is that he said I didn't do anything appropriate. Yes, you did. First of all, that's really creepy. You didn't know that girl. You're in a public place and you're holding her face like that. That's weird. The second thing that is super weird about it is that he's like 60 and she looks like she's like 18. Right?
Yep. No, it's all weird. And his apology was just half-assed. It was not good.
It's borderline FBI needs to put you on a list. That's all I'm saying.
I agree.
You're like 60 and you're doing that to an 18-year-old girl. That's just weird, man. That's weird.
Creepy.
Creepo. We'll see y'all tomorrow. It's Football Friday tomorrow, and we're going to get into a few things. But one of the things we're going to talk about is all the college basketball action that's going to be going on this weekend. Tony Agolini will be with us. Matt Carr. I'm going to make fun of his terrible NBA and that nobody cares about his NBA weekend and all that and more tomorrow. Great job, Joey. We'll see you next Thursday.
Have a great one. Thank you again, my man.
Yes, sir.
Sweetheart, it's time to go. We're back tomorrow with another show. Well, unless we're fired, we'll talk to you then. Goodbye, sweetheart. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Guys and gals, it's time to go. We'll see you on the next show.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
Thanks for listening to the Armchair Quarterbacks on these CBS Sports affiliates and catching the show on YouTube Live. We're here weekdays, 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 Central, 5 Pacific. Find Armchair Quarterbacks on YouTube Live today. Please subscribe and share and take us everywhere you go. The Armchair Quarterbacks, your first choice for Southern sports talk, live from the First Coast.
Gonna get another cigarette, please.